Salve ragazzi, ecco una nuova puntata del Calice Nero, veramente un'ora insolita completamente, ma pur avere, faremo di tutto, appunto, abbiamo fatto di tutto pur nell'avere Jeff Becerra dei Possessed, e veramente è un onore per noi. Quindi
Hello
iniziamo
Jeff, hello Jeff, welcome this special episode of Il Calice Nero. It is a really pleasure to have you here in the show. As you can see, a lot of people from Italy wanted to have a chat with you, basically. So a lot of people is asking, why do you bring Jeff? Why you guys bring Jeff? So basically, Alan sent your message, and you are here as a guest. So thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's an honor to be here, man.
For us, it's an honor since we are long-term fans of Possessed.
I love Italy. I love coming there. I love playing there. I love the people. I love everything about it. It's just a very metal place. The people are so endearing and kind and metal and just amazing. So.
Quindi intanto Jeff ha appena fatto degli apprezzamenti sulla nostra penisola, grazie Jeff, ovviamente, ha detto che siamo un popolo metal, eccetera. Io gli voglio chiedere a questo punto, scusami maestro se ti rubo la prima domanda, gli voglio chiedere qual è stata la sua impressione, la prima impressione d'Italia, anche se un po' ce ne ha parlato, e poi voglio chiedergli la prima esperienza con musicisti in Italia. So Jeff, basically you are talking about Italy, and I want to ask you your first time as a musician in Italy, if you can share some memories. And if you know some kind of special episode backstage or while touring in Italy that you want to share with us.
I'm trying to remember the first time I went to Italy. Whether I was there, I don't believe we went there in '86. I think we stayed, but I don't know. I remember we were, and I'm a little ignorant about the geography because the nature of touring is that you fly or you take a bus and then you come out and you look around and you get 10, 15 minutes and then you get back on the bus and then you land, so I didn't, but I remember one of the times I was there was this like I guess it's called a piazza or whatever. It's just this big wide open area. I believe it was in Milan. And there was all these like 13th century architecture of like popes, popes.
Milan or Rome, basically.
And
squares.
Milan or Roma.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, it was one of those epiphanies, those moments where you say, I really made it. I'm in Italy, and I said, I was thinking to myself, I've never been to this place ever in my life. This is so wild, to see, because in America is young. So everything's just a couple 100 years old, just, less than 200 years old, other than, Native American stuff. And I was thinking, man, nobody would believe that I'm here right now from my hometown. And then somebody goes, Jeff. And I was like, what? And some kid came up with the Seven Churches album. And I was like, man, that is so crazy. It was such a weird and abstract moment because I was like, nobody would believe I'm here. And somebody goes, Jeff. And it was just so bizarre, man. But it was so cool.
Yeah, it's very fun to know this memory. Since here in Italy, we got a lot of appreciation for your band.
Basically. And of course the gigs, man. The fans are they're like polite and wild. You know what I mean?
Both. We have the best of the both worlds. Wild in the pit and polite after the show, right?
No fights. No fights. Nobody's getting hurt. But it's still it's still wild. You know what I mean? So it's like everybody knows how to be metal. It's just a very metal atmosphere, as metal as possible.
Yeah, really cool to know that we have this kind of attitude because, for example, the Maestro here is from Sardinia, a big island. I'm from the south of Italy, but basically we stand as one, as metalheads, because we love the music. It's a kind of philosophy of a way of life. So it's good to connect from with your band, for example, a lot of bands that coming in Italy. For us, it's an honor to hear and see these words basically about us, because Italy is kind of a strange place, you know. So we try to give our best to people that basically come here as guests. You, of course, touring during the years, but we
strange
got also...
in the, I assume you mean strange in the fact that it's a very kind of enclosed of culture, you know. And so when outsiders come in, you know, it's almost like you're stepping into, you know, that world, you know.
Yeah, so basically something like this. So before going forward with the question, let me translate something that we said for people that asking.
Okay.
In fact, Valerio, ciao Valerio, grazie.
Ciao Vale, grandissimo, un abbraccio grande.
Comunque lui dice che ha dei ricordi molto vivi dell'Italia, dice che siamo sia selvaggi sotto al pit che molto educati dopo. Ed è stato bellissimo, perché lui non si immaginava che in Italia ci fossero fan. E ha detto, fino a quando sono stato, si riferisce penso al Duomo di Milano, ha detto lì veramente ce l'ho fatta, perché poi vedo che l'Italia c'è una cultura esagerata, c'è una situazione esagerata. Dice lui comunque non è tanto bravo in geografia, perché quando si sta in tour si salta dal basso all'alto praticamente, e quindi ha dei ricordi molto vivi sull'Italia, e lui ha detto che siamo uno dei migliori posti in cui abbia mai suonato, e lui ama il nostro paese, quindi sentirlo da Jeff in persona per noi è un piacere. Maestro, ti faccio fare a question from Alan here, and prego Maestro, vai.
Ok, allora ricordiamo l'anno del 1983, se non ricordo, ma 84, bugia, uscito su 90 tape, 90 cassette, la demo Death Metal. Come mai allora chiamare questa demo proprio Death Metal, e che filosofia c'era in quell'anno per creare un genere così selvaggio, così diretto da parte dei Possessed? Domanda scontata, lo so, però.
Okay, we have a question from the beginning of Possessed. If we are correct, 1984, the release of the demo tape Death Metal. So back in the days, if you can share how were the inspiration, and how you managed to put a kind of music that was really different at time, a wild stuff, a wild music, heavy music, and calling it death metal. We know that is a kind of common question that you got during the years, but we want to know basically everything around this first time of Possessed back in the days.
Well, Possessed, I think it's very important to understand the history of metal. A lot of the history of death metal in particular has been whitewashed and revised, you know, because the nature of magazines and articles unlike this is usually, well, it's like 90% geared around favors between the record companies and the magazines. Okay. So they tend to push whatever band is popular. Now, Possessed is a very underground band to this day, but at the time in 1983, 84, and remember, I wrote the lyrics to Burning in Hell in 1979. So it was a very, the nature of my journey, as well as Mike Terreo's journey, the fact that we lived in such a small town was great, because we met at the perfect time when these two guys just wanted to be the heaviest, fastest, most satanic band on the planet. Now, at that time, no disrespect thrash, but thrash was just a step above, you know, it wasn't as heavy as it is today, right? So when bands like, so we decided from day one to be that heavy satanic band, and just to out heavy the entire world. And in 2020 hindsight, it wasn't as difficult as you think it would be, because there weren't any heavy bands really. There was thrash, but thrash, with the exception, was more like Metallica was like the heaviest of the thrash, or Slayer. Slayer was the heaviest of the thrash, and Slayer was very heavy, but put in retrospect,
Okay.
Possessed would have been like the heaviest, most brutal death metal band of today, but with no other bands, you know what I mean, that were like that, with no genre. So when Possessed came out,
basically you started the whole scene, because in those years, like, for example, Sepultura in Brazil with the Morbid Vision, in Italy, for example, Nigredo and other stuff, but you were the only one that played this kind of brutal, heavy, and fast music.
Super brutal. It was most people weren't ready for it, except for the extreme underground. So it was a hard clash. And like, honestly, I thought that most people would just be like, this is shit, I hate it. You know, because to this day, Possessed is a very misunderstood band, you know, because after bands like Possessed, the whole scene heavied up. You know what I mean? Like, everything's, I call it like a race to the bottom, but the bottom's really the top, like a race to hell. Everything started becoming more satanic and more fast. So the bands that actually survived today, you know, in the extreme underground, are the heavier bands. So a lot of people would be like, you know, Possessed is thrash, but that's because thrash is a lot heavier now. When Possessed
but back in the days, of course, thrash was much softer than now.
I still figure Possessed as the purest form of old school death metal. And remember, so sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. We had a meeting in the driveway after our first practice, and we said, you know, this is something new. We need to brand it. Why don't, you know, and we went through some names. We said thrash metal is already taken. Black metal, that's Venom's thing, because Venom was the only black metal band. I mean, along with bands like Celtic Frost and, you know, all the people that were following after the black metal thing, because that was already becoming a movement. And we saw that, and we said, you know, we're completely different. Let's call ourselves death metal. Nobody's using that. We searched it. Nothing was there. So we said, and that way people would say, it will separate us from the pack. People would say, you know, naively, we thought that Possessed would be the only death metal band. And people would say, Possessed, oh yeah, they're that death metal band. And that way we'd be special, you know? And so,
and basically everything is history, because you started the whole movement that, of course, evolved during the years. So and very interesting point of view, because we, as fans, as musicians, etc., we do not know the entire truth about the beginning. For us, it's very special to share these memories, because people at this time have some kind of misconception who started what, but basically we can say, there's also my opinion, that Possessed started everything, because
there was no death
you were
metal
the first band back in that day that labeled yourself death metal, and you go really fast, really satanic, and really heavy.
Fast too.
Fast, fast.
Speed was everything, you know.
Speed was okay. Before going further again, I make a quick translation, and the Maestro has, of course, another question for you. Meanwhile, really thank you, Jeff, for sharing with us those memories, because they're very great. Because you cannot read anywhere, so we have the direct.
That's a whole story in itself. That, like, the powers that be tried to literally blot history out. They didn't want Possessed to exist, because they wanted to claim that first. You know, they figured there was some money in it, and there was some clout in it. And so, you know, before I got shot, you know, Possessed was known as the creators of death metal, the Godfathers. After I got shot and they thought I wasn't going to come back, you saw, like, our videos, our 83 and 84 stuff just being blotted out of YouTube. You saw the wiki page being changed and becoming the most vandalized page on wiki, which it was. And you saw, like, basically, like, you know, the whole Possessed is thrash. But in the beginning, and there was Possessed, and all the bands that followed right after Possessed, including bands like Death and early, like, Cannibal and demos like that, it incorporated that thrashy kind of cross into death metal which I think is a very important. It is by definition, those thrash elements in early death metal, by definition, what defines true death metal. So
okay. Really interesting to know, and I will translate for all the people.
Pure early death metal. Not all death metal.
Because if you say to us that you started to write lyrics in 1979, basically a lot of time back.
I wrote Burning in Hell in 1979.
In fact,
I was 11.
11 years old.
Wow. 11 years old. Yeah.
A 11 anni ha scritto I primi testi dei Possessed, Maestro. Allora,
just the lyrics, though, not the music.
Yeah, just the lyrics. Really fucking cool. Yeah,
I was a weird kid. I was a weird kid.
Weird kid, but of course with a lot of things to say, basically, because your career is, of course, continuing during the years without any stop, basically. So.
I feel like I'm just starting out. I have so much more to do,
Okay. We have a lot of things in the forthcoming questions, so I will translate really quickly for the people in Italy at home. I just want to say to all the guys that are watching us in Italy, there is 1 a.m. and we are with Jeff of Possessed. I'm really amazed and thank you again, Jeff, to be here. Ok, ragazzi, praticamente Jeff ci ha raccontato delle genesi del death metal. Loro hanno inventato il termine death metal nel 1983-84, però lui i testi, Alan, li ha scritti nel 1979 all'età di 11 anni. Ha scritto i primi testi, Living in Hell, mi pare che abbia detto, se non mi sbaglio, il testo, scusate, anche l'ora, non mi dite niente, l'ha scritta a 11 anni. Dice che praticamente loro sono stati sempre considerati death metal e hanno coniato loro questo termine perché rispetto alla scena thrash metal erano molto più pesanti. Infatti lui dice che in futuro, dopo che ha avuto il suo episodio di infortunio, sappiamo benissimo che comunque Jeff ha avuto, diciamo, il suo episodio, la sua pagina è stata vandalizzata, è stata data di misconception, però loro hanno inventato il termine death metal, loro si sono definiti death metal dal 1980, 83, 84 e loro hanno inventato praticamente una scena, perché prima i Slayer, per esempio, dice sì, erano pesanti, ma non come i Possessed, e definire i Possessed trash è assolutamente riduttivo, perché loro hanno inventato il vero death metal e da lì poi tutta una scena, tutto un sound si è maturato. E lui ricorda ancora come il giorno d'oggi che diciamo che tutte le band che andavano sui magazine, sulle cose, erano comunque dei deal con le etichette, e loro che erano veramente underground hanno avuto molta difficoltà a emergere all'inizio. Quindi fondamentalmente ci ha raccontato di come era una musica per pochi, di come si è incontrato col suo amico e fondatore e cofondatore nella loro piccola città, e di come tutto è nato alla fine da una sola parola, perché black metal è stato già preso dai Venom, lui ha citato anche Celtic Frost eccetera. Thrash metal ovviamente c'erano i Metallica, c'erano i Slayer, ma lui ovviamente rimarca l'attitudine pesante, e quindi death metal nel 1984 ha fatto nascere tutto il bellissimo genere che noi tuttora ascoltiamo, e che io ho detto poi si è evoluto, e alla fine ho detto senza i Possessed tutte le scene death metal europee non sarebbero esistite. Quindi tanto di cappello, io ho detto che per noi del Calice Nero è davvero un onore sentire queste storie che non potremmo sentire da nessuna parte, perché ce lo dice lui, ce la dice la fonte diretta. Quindi after that a question from the Maestro and we got right into it. Vai,
allora,
Maestro.
In 1985 abbiamo avuto un regalo da parte dei Possessed di JEFFB BECERRA, un lavoro, un capolavoro che è rimasto e che rimarrà scolpito nelle pietre, niente poco di meno che Seven Crusher, sotto la Combat Records. Questo disco, questo gioiello, questo capolavoro, perché lo dobbiamo chiamare capolavoro, un'arte estrema, quest'arte contorta, che tipo sarebbe? Che colonna sarebbe quella perfetta per creare un film a livello Possessed? Quindi, al posto di Seven Crusher, quale sarebbe il titolo perfetto del nuovo capolavoro dei Possessed? 1985 sempre.
Okay, let's talk about your 1985 Seven Charts, the album basically. The Maestro is defining it a masterpiece, a death metal masterpiece, also saying that it's extreme form of art basically. And I want to ask you about this album and la colonna sonora, ti devo chiedere, Alan.
Sì, sì.
And if you can imagine this album as a background music or a soundtrack music for a particular movie, if you can imagine a song from this album under a movie, under I don't know, a full-length movie, a film
genere proprio.
without any kind of genre, without any limitation, how can you describe your first full-length 7 Churches back in the 1985?
So you want me to create like an imaginary kind of script for
you can also create your own script, cioè puoi anche creare il tuo
sì, film, creare proprio un film, sì,
creare
proprio un
film. Also, this is the question. Of course, you got straight to the point. You can also invent your own script, but about the music, tell us also about the music, the stuff around it, not only the movie side, also the music.
Well, I could tell you, whenever we're playing, I you know how when you're reading a book, you can see it in your head. I do that whenever I'm on stage. I'll go in that movie in my head where nothing will be in front of me but that movie, and then I'll fade in and out. I'll see the crowd. I'll see somebody banging up there. I'll pay, of course I'm paying attention to the band, the crowd, and then for some reason it's like, like when you're driving to work and you're like, how did I get here? But I'll do that when I'm on stage. I'll fade in and out of my own movie. And in the movie, say we're playing Holy Hell or something, I'll literally be in the underground chasms of hell with the lake of fire and the demons and Lucifer. Usually I portray the protagonist. And so it will be like this nightmarish kind of hell, and I love it. I love that feeling of being able to picture the words and to become absorbed in that and to see it. So the movie that I always play is always of hell, the lake of flames, the fire, the demons, the torture. And then, but then, a lot, like, again, a lot of our words are also about, I guess my purview is about sin and the nature of sin, and sin in a brief description as doing things that mankind does that hurts themselves, that is not beneficiary to themselves or the world. But I mean, even without blaming everything on the existence of hell and Satan, man is perfectly capable of the most evils that he can dream of. And so a lot of that is almost like a longing for a better world, like saying we're not doing good enough, and this shit exists, like, for real. I've seen it, and so it's almost like a kind of sorrow. So it would be like a sorrow, a longing, and also like a badass vision of hell, So there's a lot of that is incorporated into my music, and it's kind of a pain, a redemption. The story arc would be like suffering, pain, redemption, and uplifting. So
basically, it's really interesting because we have one of the most famous poets here in Italy, Dante Alighieri, that he wrote the Inferno. Basically, he wrote about a redemption from it's kind of journey from hell to the to the heaven, basically. So your view about the Inferno, the hell, it's kind of romantic, as we can see this term, no? So
with the tinge of Dante Alighieri, that divine comedy of it all.
The divine comedy. Basically, it's kind. I when you say those words, I had this vision in my mind with your music on the background, and basically all the scenes, all the section of the hell from the top to the bottom, and I say, it's very cool. And so
I truly believe that hell is internalized in all of us. We all have our own highs and lows. We all have our ways of dealing with things, but hell and religion in general is a very good way of explaining what we internally do in a non-supernatural way or a supernatural way, whatever, you know, it's a genius. The idea of heaven and hell is genius. In fact, it's so genius and well written biblically that you almost think it can't be for mortal men, you know?
Yeah, that's really great. It's a really cool answer and great answer, because I have all the pictures that you say to me. I have right in front of me. I imagine everything. So I think that it's like this. So let me translate for the people. And there is a comment from Denti in Alto, that he said that of course Possessed have invented the death metal in 1984, but also they say that one of the first band, not only Possessed but also Onslaught in the 1985 with Power from Hell.
1985 però.
Sì.
They were a punk band, right?
They were a punk band back in the days.
Yeah, they never identified as death metal. As far as I know, I don't know a hell of a lot about Onslaught, but I have heard that before. And I remember them being a punk band. I never saw them back then saying, well, of course, nobody was saying it, of course. And they weren't saying, hey, we're a death metal band, we're playing death metal, and this is death metal. They were saying we're punk, you know, we're punk band. And they did, like a lot of bands, they and no disrespect to Onslaught, a lot of bands back then were cycling through genres, you know. They would say, oh, we're black metal. No, we're punk crossover, or we're punk, or we're thrash, or we're
okay. But you with your band, you were the first people that say we were death metal from the beginning, basically.
Yeah, a lot of bands do this. They, you know, especially when we disappeared, they say, you know, we did have a death metal part in a song, and therefore we created it. Or we had a fast part that kind of sounded like death metal.
Okay.
But there's a big difference between having a part retroactively and saying, oh, this one part sounded like death metal, even though we were a punk band.
Yeah.
You know,
I got your point. Yes.
Okay, a lot of bands do that, yeah.
Ok, quindi ragazzi, Ion Slout lui dice che sono una band punk, hanno detto che poi dopo, quando i Possessed hanno avuto il periodo di stop, che hanno fatto parte di death metal, ma nei primi anni 80 effettivamente gli unici che facevano death metal erano i Possessed, e questo, diciamolo, ce lo conferma Jeff, ma lo sapevamo già, insomma. Lui comunque ha una visione della come soundtrack della sua musica. Lui dice che lui tutti i giorni, quando suona, quando va al lavoro, quando vede tutto, ha queste immagini, no? Dice come che
great. Onslaught's a great band, by the way. Yeah.
I was translating the
like
the
no
part
disrespect.
before.
Yeah, no disrespect.
No problem about it.
It's just not true. Yeah, it's not true.
Because some people say something on Wikipedia and stuff, but there are a lot of misconception when you wrote.
An easy way to do it is if a band says that they were playing death metal in '83 or '84, it's not true. Other than Possessed.
In fact, for example, I saw an interview of Max Cavalera. Most people said in the beginning, Sepultura have a death metal vibe, but they say no. Basically, we were not playing death metal. So
yeah, I mean, Max has always been a big supporter of Possessed.
In fact, his nickname was Max Possessed back in the. Yeah, we hope to have him too on our show. We hope. Basically, because one of our biggest names.
Max is amazing.
He's from basically it's from his father. He's from a town near mine, so it's something really cool to have.
Sepultura did so much they do so much for the scene. It's incredible. And again, we're talking about monster big bands, you know.
Yeah, basically.
Possessed is a very small in the hierarchy of bands. So our voice is not huge, you know.
You are not clue about the Possessed fan base, because I think that you, as your band, is very huge, huge influence to the other bands. So
I mean, well, in respect to, like, look at Morbid Angel selling 150,000 units as the highest grossing death metal band. So death metal is a microcosm. We don't pump 150,000 units of sales is monster. It's gigantic in the death metal scene, but say in pop, it's nothing, you know? So our genre is still very primordial. It's very small, but it is getting bigger. It does have...
Il death metal, come dice Jeff, è ancora legato all'underground, anche se i Morbid Angel fanno delle grosse vendite. Lui dice comunque, comparato al pop, sono comunque cose un po' più underground, però dice che il death metal è un microcosmo. Ritornando alla domanda, quella della soundtrack, lui dice che si vede una situazione tipo Dante Alighieri, quindi è una visione molto romantica dell'inferno, fondamentalmente. Basically, Jeff, I'm doing double work.
Yes, I'll be quiet.
No problem about it. No problem. Just to people that, of course, want to follow more and more your good flow and words and stuff. Your discussion.
We're talking about Onslaught,
yeah. But let's talk about Possessed. And for you guys from Italy, of course, I try to translate in real time in the best way I can. But there is a button on YouTube. CC button, you can have a automatic translation and subtitles, so you can follow us. I try to translate, but you can follow the Jeff in real time, so no problem about it. Maestro, the next question.
Allora, tornando sempre, insistendo ancora continuamente su Seven Crusher, se questo piccolo gioiello lo facciamo penetrare, lo cerchiamo di farla entrare all'interno di una tela.
Okay.
Questa tela deve essere un pittore con problemi psichici, ma allo stesso tempo un pittore alle prese con l'alcol, quindi con problemi di alcolismo.
Quindi un pittore tormentato, insomma.
Quanto questo pittore così tormentato, così frustrato dalle sue dipendenze, riuscirebbe a creare la vera essenza di Seven Crusher tramite tela e non musica.
Okay, it is a very interesting question, because let's say that your first album, Seven Churches, is not music, but you can evolve it as a canvas, as a paint. If you feel that paint, it's from a kind of tormented author, you know, how can describe it your music using the painting, basically? And e poi qual è l'altra? Sorry, qual è l'altra cosa? La pittura e poi? Il pittore tormentato?
Quanto questo disco con le sue dipendenze riesce a entrare all'interno della tela e creare proprio non a livello musicale, ma a livello spirituale, visivo, Seven Crusher.
Okay, basically he's asking about put the music of your first album in a paint way. So it's not music, but it's a painting. How can you describe it? Because for Alan, for example, he described it as something that a tormented author can do, because basically, as we said before, having images right in front of the eyes with our imagination, and we try to paint something basically with our mind.
I mean, oh gosh, I can't remember. I have of course, the Revelations of Oblivion is like the eighth church, you know, but you know, I don't want to call it the eighth church, because the seven churches are a real thing biblically. You know, it was Christ talking to his churches. He had seven churches, which are all actually located in Asia, in Eurasia, Asia Minor, to be more specific. And he was saying, you know, after my passing, because, you know, biblically Christ knew he was going to be Christ and crucified and rise again. And so, you know, he was going to say something, die, and rise again. But he was telling, you know, his churches, you know, basically directions. And it was like a inspirational kind of message of like, this is what Christianity means to me. Follow my logic, right? And rise everybody up. But then there's also the Lucifer as the tragic anti-hero. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lucifer says, you know, there are many principalities even in heaven, you know, politics and thrones, different thrones of heaven biblically. to say some are over others. There's miscommunications and arguments even in heaven. So I guess they must have bargained to impasse biblically. There's not a hell of a lot about Lucifer or his fall or Lucifer or Satan in general in the Bible. Much of that was revised like 13th, 12th, 13th century into being something more. In fact, you're not going to see a lot of things. Let me see. Lost my train of thought. You're not going to see the invention of Satan with a capital S as a proper pronoun until the church said they made him into a being. They formed Satan as a supernatural being with a capital S, a proper pronoun, not biblically, but to the 13th century. The word Satan, Satan or Satan, it came from the Greek, the Hebrew, and it just means adversary, And so I'm kind of going off topic, but the word just means adversary. It was never a being. The church made him into a being in order to explain, if God is great and God is good and God is all being master of time, space, and dimension, why does evil exist, right? And so their logic was, we'll create this guy and then we'll blame it on him, But there's a newer logic that says that it's all part of a plan,
Basically, your whole interpretation is about the Bible and so the theosophistic stuff.
Yeah. I'm going way off topic.
No, but it's not off topic because, of course, the Bible.
There's a Doré painting. There's a Doré painting. What's his name? Something Doré. He does the relief wood sculptures, and he's I think is he Italian? Doré.
Yeah, I think so.
Gustave Doré.
Gustave Doré. Yeah.
He's got the winged Lucifer falling from the heavens to the earth.
Basically, he did the whole Dante Alighieri's Inferno with his paintings too.
Yeah, they used that in the book. Years later, they used his relief paintings. But that kind of rise, that coming to terms with the fact that everything's not perfect, being a stronger person, and then rising above it. I think
that's a really interesting point of view, since Doré is one of the most famous painters that I, of course, always put right in front of your music, because, of course, there is we talked about this kind of theosophic and meaningful things from the Bible. So basically, there is a lot to say. It's not totally off topic, but it's really interesting to see this point of view. Because
I just wanted to make the point.
Lucifer and Satan, as the mythological Biblic stuff, there are a lot of misunderstanding, because basically we got this from different culture. So it's very interesting to know this point of view, since we got a really 360 degrees on this stuff, which is very, very not heavy, but very I can say it in English, but let me come si dice aulico in inglese.
I guess my point is
really courtly. It's courtly, this kind of argumentation. So quindi i dipinti di Gustave Doré possono essere un'interpretazione, perché poi abbiamo parlato con Jeff, che stavo dicendo, stiamo facendo un discorso aulico sulla Bibbia. Si è parlato
però traduci, perché sennò altrimenti
sì,
anche
però
quello che chiedi, perché altrimenti...
io non ho aggiunto niente di più a quello che ha detto Jeff, ho aggiunto solo delle domande per fartelo tradurre meglio. Allora, sto dicendo, e fatemi tradurre un attimo, che lui si abbiamo parlato dell'aspetto teosofico della Bibbia, che è la parte essenziale anche l'aspetto pittorico dei possessed, tra virgolette, che abbiamo chiesto della pittura. Lui dice che Gustave Doré parla di Satana e di Lucifero e di come il loro significato teosofico dall'Asia minore, tutti questi studi sulla Bibbia che sono stati di vitale importanza per quello che sta comunque studiando, perché lui si immagina, lui ha parlato di politica proprio nella Bibbia, cioè il suo studio artistico è legato molto al fenomeno biblico. e così come il suo studio artistico è collegato a Gustave Doré, alla figura di Lucifero. Quindi stava parlando proprio del significato particolare infatti lui ha parlato di Asia minore, delle origini del termine Lucifero, le origini del termine Satana, che si scriva con la S maiuscola, che significa in realtà nemico nelle lingue antiche, perché poi la Bibbia ha avuto varie interpretazioni. Quindi lui dice, scusatemi se sono andato un po' off topic, ma volevo darvi questa impostazione teosofica, no? Sulla Bibbia, come studio proprio sulla Bibbia, per praticamente dirvi che la mia idea di pittura è vicina a Gustave Doré e a tutte quelle figure comunque vengono accostate alla Divina Commedia. Infatti lui, Dante Alighieri, lo stima parecchio ed è uno dei suoi principali fonti di ispirazione.
Se invece andiamo a scomodare la Mona Lisa, quindi la Gioconda,
ok,
quale sarebbe l'album perfetto dei Possessed, pur essendo un genere death metal? Quale sarebbe l'album perfetto e quanto i Possessed sono cambiati con l'ultima produzione in Revelation Oblivion? Perché chiedo questa cosa? Perché c'è stato il cambiamento dell'etichetta con la Nuclear Blast, quindi un'etichetta più blasonata, un'etichetta più mainstream. Però ho notato che ascoltando il full, i Possessed di mainstream non hanno un cazzo. Sono rimasti sempre ancorati, belli, potenti.
Sì, come già spiegato pure prima. So, Jeff is asking about your imagination. You know, if you have Mona Lisa, no? How can you describe the Mona Lisa with your music? With which one of your album, which one of your songs, basically? And also, the Maestro is asking about the deal and the collaboration with Nuclear Blast Records. So basically, we want to ask if you have some memories and the fact that you got a deal with this huge label, because Nuclear Blast is one of the most important labels in metal, but you still have this underground soul, as we speak before. How was working with Nuclear Blast, and how is the return with this new sound of Possessed?
Well, I mean, my logic was always to have each album, you know, as a different chapter in the same book. So everything's a continuation of the next. I also wanted to make it as diverse as possible, because remember, in the beginning, being the only death metal band, I didn't want to be pigeonholed into being one thing. So literally trying to create my own genre, my own band, I wanted to be as diverse as possible. You know, of course, that was very naive, because I had no idea that death metal would become a genre, or first a subgenre, then a genre. So I'm still continuing that story, but there was a couple stumbling blocks on the way, as you know. So so I kind of think of everything as one unit, so it's hard to kind of divide it. But with the Nuclear Blast deal, I figured if I kept going out of my lane, people might say that that's not Possessed, right? So so what I did was, to create validity, I toured with my band 3 times longer than the original Possessed. 12 years, almost 13 years. I found just the right band after many lineup changes. There's been like over 20 members of Possessed. But I find the right people, the right paintbrushes, you know?
Yeah. Ha trovato i giusti pittori, ha detto, con le nuove formazioni. Ok. So basically, you keep evolving.
Yeah. Well, I kept evolving, but then I took a step back for Revelations of Oblivion.
Okay.
And I think a lot of it was, like, again, I still feel like I'm just starting out, and I still want to paint that perfect picture. So I'm still on the canvas at this point, you know. I'm still. I haven't made my masterpiece yet, and I need to do that, because the way I operate is, if it's almost like when I finished that 33 years I finally got Rue out, Revelations of Oblivion, I felt a sense of loss and longing. At first there was this ecstatic joy, and then very quickly I was like, shit, what do I do now? You know? And so yeah, man, it's like, I love it. I think that Revelations of Oblivion is the best representation of what we Possessed is today. But there's still a long way to go, you know, and a short time to get there, because, you know, I'm not going to live forever. And regardless of how famous I am or how many people know me, that's still my journey. So right now, I've got the canvas. I primed the canvas, you know, and I am I'm still waiting, you know, but I think that most people would want me to say Seven Churches is the masterpiece. But in my mind, Seven Churches is great. It's very remedial. You know, it's like Possessed 101, but it takes all the albums to mix together in order to really understand what Possessed is, you know?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so, and as far as the Nuclear Blast deal, we made a demo in my basement. We sent it out to several record companies, all of which responded, all of which wanted Possessed. And we picked Nuclear Blast because in the Nuclear Blast is the metal label. You know what I mean? It's the apex of all metal labels, in my opinion. And so it just made sense. Also, we had some help from people like Death Angel. I believe the drummer of Death Angel put in a word. Also, Gerardo Martinez, the president of Nuclear Blast USA, had a conversation with me, and he said, yeah, I was talking to Kirk Hammett, you know, from Metallica, and I was kind of bragging on all the old school metal bands we have. And then Kirk looked at Gerardo and said, yeah, now all you need is Possessed. And so that's a big word there. And you know, I sent that demo to Marcus Steigler, who was then the owner of Nuclear Blast. And the email shot back to Nuclear Blast. Gerardo said, Christmas has come early, sign them now.
So really straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool. Quindi loro la collaborazione con la Nuclear Blast è nata perché loro hanno mandato la demo, hanno detto, sono rimasti molto contenti, addirittura Kirk Hammett e i Death Angel hanno fatto buona parola dei loro, perché loro comunque, e dice che quando hanno mandato la mail hanno detto Natale è arrivato in anticipo, firma i Possessed. E lui parla che praticamente per lui la questione della pittura è molto attinente con quello che fa, perché lui ha cambiato membri su membri, sta ancora trovando il dipinto perfetto, la line-up perfetta. Ha detto che ha messo il prime sulla tela, ha messo il fondo bianco sulla tela, sta ancora con la sua mano dipingendo il quadro perfetto. Ovviamente Seven Churches è il capolavoro, però anche l'ultimo rappresenta quello che i Possessed sono oggi. Non c'è però Possessed senza l'escursus tra i vari album, lui ha parlato. E poi ha parlato anche del fatto che comunque dopo che sono stoppati, che hanno ripreso l'attività, è stato molto difficile trovare una quadra, quindi ha cambiato vari membri, ha fatto varie sperimentazioni e dice io comunque non vivrò per sempre e vivo ancora col sogno di mettere sull'Olimpo del metal, tra virgolette, la mia firma, insomma, giusto per romanzare un po'
l'ha già messo da molto tempo.
L'ha già messo. Poi dice che rispetto a tante altre band sono rimasti sempre nell'underground, quindi per loro stare con Nuclear è andare al top praticamente, quindi è stato per loro una grossa soddisfazione.
Quindi mi hai detto i quadri, quindi andiamo su Monet e Picasso. Questi due quadri quanto potrebbero rispecchiare Jeff e gli altri ragazzi della line-up e allo stesso tempo quanto due film, uno del 63 di Alfred Hitchcock e del 73 William Friedkin, e stiamo parlando di Gli uccelli e l'esorcista. Quanto questi due film possono essere dei riverberi perfetti dei riff e delle parti vocali di Jeff Becerra, scusate, all'interno della chitarra e all'interno della batteria che confluisce con il basso.
Ok, io glielo chiedo subito. Sto un attimo vedendo la traduzione. No, sto un attimo vedendo la traduzione del film con là gli uccelli per capire come si traduceva. Allora, so one question, but many questions in one from the Maestro. The first one is, can you describe you and your bandmates, your band members, using basically image, Canva, or paintings from Monet and Picasso? Facciamo una step by step, Alan, se no mi perdo. So if you can you describe this?
You want me to delineate each member of Possessed with an
artist? Okay. Basically describe each one with the painting. The Maestro Alan said, for his opinion, Monet and Picasso were the best to fit each one. But you have some other ideas?
Monet, his medium was basically watercolors, right? Picasso, his medium was essentially oil, but they all used all mediums, of course. I think Monet was all about perspective, and I think if Monet would be probably Claudius, because his perspective, his perspective is long view. He's kind of always looking to the future, and what will come, and wanting to grow and expand. He's also very articulate. He's very amazing, and I gotta say that it was a long journey to find these musicians. They don't grow on trees. You know what I mean? Now, a lot of people say, well, there's a lot of great guitarists out there, but there's not a lot of great people for Possessed, because Possessed is very unique unto itself. And I want to keep that sound and that vision. And so it's very hard to find the people that aren't in it just for the money or the fame, because that's not really important. What's important is the music. Claudius is a very musical person, very articulate, and basically just is very trained and classical in that manner. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's perfect for a description for Claudius, basically. Quindi,
he's very articulate.
So Monet for Claudius.
Yeah, okay. And I'm trying to think of my art history, but college was many years ago. But I do love art. So I think that Daniela Gonzalez would be he would be more like a Salvador Dali,
Okay. Quindi Daniel Gonzalez, chitarra, Salvador Dali.
He's very much
cool.
I don't know, or I'm tempted to say he's Van Gogh, because he's a very tortured artist.
Okay, so
let's change Daniel to Van Gogh, because
Van Gogh. Okay, Van Gogh. So Gonzalez, Van Gogh. Okay.
He essentially came out of nowhere. He was in a band called Nail Shitter, which I'd never heard of. But when I was on my quest for the true Possessed, I couldn't find the right person, and I just happened to be friends with his girlfriend at that time, Lindsay.
Oh, good.
And she said, we were talking on Facebook, and she said, I said, yeah, I can't find a guitarist. This is fucked up. And she's all, my boyfriend plays guitar. And in my mind, I was thinking, I've heard that a million times, and I was just I was gonna fuck it off. And she said, no, listen, he's really good. Just give him a chance, fly him out. And because of my friendship with Lindsay, who's a dear friend of mine, I flew Danielle out from Florida, and he was immediately the best guitarist I've ever played with. So he had 8 songs down front to back, and he did it perfectly. And so I think he was more of that unknown, because remember, Van Gogh never sold a painting, I think I saw one of his paintings sell for like $97 million, a while back. And which is ironic, because except for all the incest and the craziness, there's a little craziness there, definitely.
everyone that is that gravitates around this music, it's a little bit crazy, you know.
Yeah,
so,
and tortured. Yeah.
Okay.
We're going through the struggle. I think that Emilio, God, it's hard to. He would be a Mexican painter, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a good a Mexican paint artist. But
before you joined the live stream, me and the Maestro were watching his drum cam, and basically he did this crazy feel. It was crazy. Qui stiamo parlando di Emilio che dice qualche pittore messicano, so Mexican painter, you know, I that sugar skull things. I can imagine.
Well, there's some really great Mexican players that are.
I don't know them, unfortunately. I don't know them.
Yeah, sugar skull, but I'm trying to think of. Oh God. Very rooted in family and tradition, and very, very straightforward, where he can take even the most complicated patterns, make sense in his head. And the way he is I never take him for granted, because he'll say stuff like, when we first joined, I'll be like, you know, Possessed, we have the rototoms. It's very,
yeah.
He's like, so you want me to get rototoms, boss? Yeah. The next day he's got rototoms. So he's very succinct, very traditional, but very abstract at the same time. But his would look like, you know, that.
Okay.
And
it's really cool
Robert,
to know this. Very cool to know this, because we of course been watching guardiamo i Possessed dall'esterno, no? E quindi non sappiamo tutte queste. So we were watching Possessed from the crowd. So we do not know all of this stuff around. So it's very crazy to know that kind of behind the scenes stuff about how you get into the other members. Since chemistry is very important in a band.
Chemistry and hard work. You know,
yeah,
I would like to say that Possessed came from divine inspiration, and to a certain extent it does. It does. It really does. Where, you know, where that beam of light comes and you go, but you know, 90% of it's hard work. But I will tell you, like, I probably shouldn't say this because I'll sound like a fucking nut. But when I get stuck on lyrics, I will literally just speak in tongues, and in my mind, the lyrics will come.
So, quindi lui dice che i Possessed sono come una genesi divina. Infatti, quando lui si blocca sui testi, ha dei momenti di sbarrimento, ma poi rientra su quello che sta dicendo. I'm a little bit translating what you say, just to not missing some points. Yeah, so basically, we were comparing painters to the band members of Possessed. Emilio, yes, it's Emilio. Yeah. Sorry, but I'm sleeping right now. Emilio, it's a kind of Mexican painter. Claudio's Monet, while Daniel is you say the dalle, or Van Gogh. You said, okay.
Yeah, Van Gogh.
And Robert. What you can describe, Robert?
Robert is very difficult to describe, but he is also very Robert is, you know, of course he's very Mexican, you know, like most of us. Claudius is the only non-Mexican or non-Hispanic.
Okay.
But Robert is you know, he's the meat and potatoes kind of person. So he's so good. It's hard to relate him with anybody.
Quindi è molto difficile trovare diciamo il giusto pittore da affiancare a Robert.
Robert is very much a realist. So
ok, molto realista. Ok, realist.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, so you know, he would be a realism painting like Rembrandt.
Okay. Quindi un pittore realista, Robert. And you, Jeff?
Me?
Yeah. Can you describe your?
First of all, I can't even draw a stick figure. So
me too. No problem. But
I don't know what I would be. I would be a mix of. I've never thought of myself as a lead. What I think of myself as an artist is I was reading about Duke Ellington back in college, in junior college.
Okay.
And what he does is he uses, like, if you what I do is I try to take the best attributes of each paintbrush, each member, and I try to highlight those and bring those out within the music.
Quindi praticamente fa sì che tutti i membri dei Possessed abbiano il giusto risalto. Abbiamo, for all the Italians that we're watching, we were comparing painters to band members of Possessed. Really crazy interview tonight. Quindi stiamo facendo la comparazione tra pittori e membri dei Possessed. Bellissima la domanda del maestro. Poi ti devo rispondere quella riguardante i film, no?
Aspetta.
Prima.
JEFFB BECERRA si potrebbe rispecchiare con Caravaggio?
The maestro said about Caravaggio with your style of I was more into some Russian futurism because of the speed. We talked about the speed as the most important element of Possessed.
No, I mean, okay, I got to be very careful there, because when Possessed was founded, and even now, the concept is not about rules. In fact, it's just the opposite. I think rules are very limiting. There's a lot of people that say, well, Possessed is not death metal, the thrash, because of this and this. The first death metal band was Death or Onslaught or whatever. But you know, there's so many bands that try to lay claim to the title. But of course, you know, we know the truth. But what was I saying? It's not about rules. The genre itself would be Death, Onslaught, and whoever else is a part of the genre. Because the more...
Quindi un genere più libero. So a freedom as
it brings diversity to the genre.
Quindi
so
death
the
metal
genre
come
would have never existed
with
just Possessed. It would have just been Possessed calling themselves death metal, which is, you know, it's ludicrous. So the way I see it is the genre is all encompassing, and the more colorful it gets, you know, the more we have to draw inspiration from. And at the same time, because of the nature of who I am, I never copy other bands. I'm always looking to create something new.
Your unique style, quindi creare il tuo stile, your style, basically.
Yeah, I have to compete with my own legacy, which is tough, because I try to. So all I have is my artists I'm with, and like always, you know, from Larry to Treo, to Sus, to Claudius, to Bobby, to Emilio, and to Danielle. These are the people I look and draw inspiration from. At the same time, my lyrics, I try to make them, you know, have that arc of hopelessness to redemption, you know?
Quindi c'è proprio uno studio particolare, e dice che il genere del death metal per Jeff dei Possessed è libertà, non ci sono tanti fronzoli, tanti canoni. Lui dice che praticamente è una situazione che viene da lui e dagli altri membri, quindi è molto interessante come discorso. Maestro, la faccio la domanda sui film?
Sì.
So the maestro is also asked about the fact that he's listening your music, you know, and he said, "Oh, Possessed is perfect for The Exorcist or a film like The Birds." What do you think about it?
The Exorcist, or what was that? What was it?
I'm translating the Italian title.
Hitchcock.
The Birds of Hitchcock.
Fredkin di L'Esorcista.
Ok, aspetta, let me translate the correct titles. The Exorcist, yeah. It's quello si chiama The L'Esorcista, sì.
Sì, L'Esorcista.
So, what do you think about being put in like this with those movies as soundtrack for those movies?
It's difficult, because I'm also a realist, to imagine Possessed, you know, traditionally in a movie, because they usually don't put extreme metal that is not commercially tinted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
But more and more, it's having some commercial value. In fact, I can't talk about it, but I just licensed my music. They're going to pick a song, hopefully, for a famous TV series in the United States, you know, and which is weird, because, you know, traditionally we were scorned we were pariah, you know, growing up in the Satanic Panic era, and they've always put the label explicit, which used to mean something, and they've pulled our albums off the shelves. We've always been at odds with kind of hyper Calvinistic Christian radicals.
We have the Vatican here, so we can understand 100%.
So it's very difficult to think, but I would think it would be like an underground horror movie, you know.
Quindi,
But the way I think of Possessed would very much be in a movie, a big production like The Exorcist, because I truly believe that extreme metal, death metal in particular, has commercial value and viability, and should be, and you know, it's never going to be in a blockbuster, because you know, most people, it's, you know, Possessed is very misunderstood, you know, and but my hopes would to be in a huge or maybe like The Void. Remember that movie, The Void?
Yeah,
or like remember that Cage movie, Mandy? Did you ever see that?
I'm not familiar. I know the title.
Nicolas Cage has.
So familiar.
I think that's the best, one of the best modern day horror movies.
Quindi, Mandy, like, it's called Mandy. It's
called Mandy with Nicolas Cage. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I remember that the movie. Okay,
I'm actually friends with Nicolas Cage's son.
Amico del figlio di Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage, the famous actor, has a son, and if you ever think the world,
I saw that a picture with the Venom T-shirt.
He wears corpse paint. He's in a black metal band. Yeah.
Quindi il figlio di Nicolas Cage è un gruppo black metal.
So he's a wild guy.
You can say to the Nicolas Cage son that we run a fanzine. A death metal, black metal fanzine. If he wants, he can send us a demo to be reviewed.
Yeah.
Ho detto che il figlio di Nicolas Cage c'ha un gruppo black metal, ci può mandare la demo per la recensione su Arte Degenerata.
Okay.
Oh, I know a bunch of people. I know so many people. Like, I'm not bragging, but the people I know are so like out there, from rap artists to like I met Ghostman, which is weird because I guess he got in a black metal mix with rap, with trap rap. And he was on a podcast called No Jumper, and my daughter, I had no idea, because I'm off into the death metal world. She's like, my daughter came over and goes, this is crazy, Dad. Don't get a big head, but Ghostman, and I'm like, who the fuck is Ghostman? She's like, Ghostman is wearing one of your shirts on No Jumper. I'm like, first of all, what is a Ghostman and what is a No Jumper? She's like, it's a podcast on YouTube, right? So then I looked, and sure enough, this guy's getting like 47 million clicks a YouTube video. You know what I mean? He's giant. And I actually knew Poppy, the pop princess, I knew her, and I guess they have a history. Then through them, I kind of met Dana Dentata, and it's weird. It's like music is such a microcosm, it's like, and I think it's important not to just say, oh, well, fuck this kind of music or fuck that kind of music, because I've grown up with that my entire life. People being the first death metal band, people were like, that's fucking noise. It's garbage. You can't even understand what you're saying. The music is trash, or it's not death. Possessed sucks, They're mid because of some allegiance, some fictional allegiance to a single band or a single genre, and I just think that is the polar opposite. All these rules and these dogmatic principles were not. I wanted death metal to be about, first of all,
un death metal libero senza dogmatismi, so a freedom,
a freedom, and an all-encompassing a world like where I mean, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the original Possessed was fuck the world, fuck it wasn't fuck Christianity, but it was because I used to want to be a priest. I thought very, very, very long and hard about going to seminary.
Quindi Jeff poteva diventare un prete, dice, stava per iscriversi al seminario.
I did. I was very Catholic growing up, and I still talk to my priest today because he's a great guy and a friend. But and Catholic priests are very rooted, like they're not like some non-denominational Calvinistic Christian. They're Christian. They go to college, they go to school, they're educated, and they're very real and grounded. And they, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people don't understand the Catholic Church. They don't understand what it's about, you know. And of course, I have friends that are high priests in the Church of Satan too, you know.
Ah, quindi c'è anche amici nella Church of Satan. Ah, so friends in Church of Satan, LaVey stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, it's morphed into something else, you know. Now, but what I'm saying, I forget what I'm saying, but yeah, I don't like the rules. I don't
basically
like
also what it's aiming us is to talk freely and also to spreading the freedom. So noi parliamo di essere liberi contro le limitazioni. So what you say, it's very important for us because it's our soul. Il Calice Nero is born that we want to make a kind of space for everyone without any limitation. So what you saying about freedom?
Of course, culturally, we all have our rules. And that's important. I love culture, but I also, and when just speaking of music, I think it's very limiting to just apply a certain culture to death metal.
Quindi sta parlando del fatto che, sorry Jeff, I try to translate something before going further because I can miss something. Lui sta parlando della questione della guerra tra generi. Lui ha molti amici anche fuori dal metal e dice: noi siamo nati con la questione di andare contro qualsiasi limitazione perché il nostro genere deve essere libero, invece adesso vede sottoscene, sottoculture che vengono a scontrarsi tra di loro, ma non è questo che i Possessed dicevano. Noi amici con i Ghostman, con rapper, musica, c'è persone che fanno pop, però non se lo fa il problema di parlargli. Anche lui voleva diventare prete, si è scritto anche al seminario, parla ancora con preti, è molto vicino al mondo cattolico. Lui stesso è cattolico, lo dice: quello che volevamo fare noi non era contro il cristianesimo, era contro il mondo, contro le regole, contro le imposizioni. Lui parla proprio della questione che dicevi tu, Alan, proprio per dire: noi siamo e volevamo la libertà, quindi non ci interessa più che altro gli altri, non ci interessa l'apparenza, ci interessa la sostanza di quello che siamo sostanzialmente.
Tornando indietro invece dei film,
about the film, so back in the first question.
I mean,
sorry, I forgot to translate it, but you already answered this.
I mean, I would see it as at this point, I still see death metal as very underground. It would have to be like an independent film, like, you know, like Mandy. It would have to be from a band that has, you know, like from a band like Possessed that has risen, fallen so many times. It would have to be something, you know, meaningful and amazing, you know.
Quindi lui dice che per quanto lui vede i Possessed come colonna sonora di un gruppo molto, cioè di un film molto underground, alla fine lui dice che la musica secondo lui il death metal ha un valore pesante, quindi lui vorrebbe che il genere fosse usato in produzioni massime, però lui dice che al momento lo vede in produzioni piccole, underground, particolari, insomma, come film. Quindi come colonna sonora, lui parla di Mandy di Nicolas Cage come film. Questo film particolare, che poi abbiamo entrato nel discorso del figlio di Nicolas Cage, bla bla bla, e siamo arrivati a parlare della libertà nel death metal. È bella. This interview is really interesting because we start from a point and we got carried away and talk about the other stuff. It's very cool.
It's very hard to give just a straightforward, simple answer that I know you're probably looking for, but that's
no, we are not looking, even if anche se è difficile da tradurre, noi vogliamo le domande come queste. Even if it's difficult to translate the full of the everything, it's cool to have this answer because we want to know more.
I mean, as an artist, I think it's you can't think very straightforward, or you're not going to get what you want. You know, you're going to get a part of what you want, but you're not going to get everything you want.
Infatti come artista dice lui, le risposte devono essere globali perché sennò che artisti sono, dice Maestro.
I wish Possessed was like Van Gogh or like a painting, because the nature of music today is because of revisionism, and I know this is my kind of my purview at this moment, but it seems like, you know, people don't even remember Elvis hardly anymore. It seems like it's always the newest next best thing that takes over as Godfather, or the most commercially viable thing. With art, it's never that way. That historically, people they respect like the roots and you know, even though Van Gogh never sold a painting, now he's a giant, you know what I mean? And Jackson Pollock is like, it's so abstract, but people still appreciate it, you know? And these days it seems like, you know, it's like a self-deleting history. The more popular you are, the more Godfather you are. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And maybe Godfather's the wrong word, but I wish that music still had that kind of
Quindi lui vorrebbe che la concezione della musica fosse come l'arte, perché alla fine dice Van Gogh non ha mai venduto un quadro, poi è diventato uno dei migliori. Invece adesso si tende a cancellare il passato, si tende a fare, lui usa il termine Godfather, che penso si riferisca un po' alla situazione mafiosetta, insomma, capito?
Yeah, I just wish, you know, I don't want to be forgotten when I die, you know.
You want to carve your name in the stone,
but I know I will. I know I will, and I'm fine with that.
For the Maestro, right now, you already for the Maestro, for Alan, you already set your name in the stone.
Because, yeah, well, yeah, but like I say, it's very.
Ti ho detto che tu già lo ritieni importante, Alan.
Minchia, voglio vedere io. È una delle pietre miliari, voglio vedere io.
For the Maestro, you are one of the milestone. Your band is one of the main bands that led us as fans to got into heavy music. A legend, they said. We are not saying this because you are here. We are also big fan of Possessed, and we know that we have to not to revisit history. You have to be stuck to the roots. The roots of death metal.
Yeah, the time is now. The time is
now.
The
time is now. But the roots, our roots. For example, I'm a big fan of melodic death metal.
Oh yeah.
But the roots are in the death metal, and the death metal was started by you back in the days.
Yeah, so and it's ironic because Possessed is the only band that gets called out on that. You know, it's like melodic death metal is never saying that's not death metal. You know. But Possessed, even as the first, that's not death metal.
Infatti, dice che molti lo accusano i Possessed di non essere death metal, ma alla fine l'hanno inventato loro. Infatti dicono, per esempio, lui dice il melodic death non è death, non dicono che il melodic death non è death metal. In realtà
even folk death metal. I mean, even and I think our Viking death metal. I love all these genres because I think it adds value. All these bands add value. And there was a time when the genre itself of death metal was almost obliterated during like the 90s and grunge. Like death metal became very small, like almost gone, you know?
Negli anni 90 con il grunge il death metal è diventato più piccolo. Also with the black metal, death metal.
That can't happen again. Like I do not want that to happen again. Yeah.
Quindi non vuole che il death metal ritorni in sordina. Dice che questi nuovi generi che si affacciano al death metal come influenza, tipo parlo del Viking, del folk, vanno bene per dare nuova linfa, perché lui non vuole che vada sottoterra il genere, perché ci tiene parecchio.
But at the same time, I think it's also important that we look at that death metal as artists. They don't limit themselves, you know, because I don't want to. I want death metal to be something good and real and artistic. And I just think that, you know, I think a lot of the newer bands are getting that. And I think I like that diversity. I like that kind of open-mindedness, you know. And I just think it's important not to just say, well, we're just inside this box, you know.
Okay, quindi di fare.
I would gladly have never existed if death metal as a genre lived forever, you know.
Ok, quindi lui fa un discorso sul futuro, di non rimanere chiusi nelle piccole scatoline, ma di pensare un po' fuori i canoni, e quindi dice preferirei morire se vedessi questa cosa del death metal che sprofonda,
questa ristagnazione, diciamo.
Esatto, questo sì.
Se appunto prendiamo la voce di JEFFB BECERRA, la prendiamo e deve essere scolpita all'interno di una scultura, quale sarebbe il verso della track perfetta, preferita di tutti gli album di JEFFB BECERRA, e allo stesso tempo quale sarebbe il riff perfetto per intonare un verso della Bibbia rovesciata?
Okay, so another question comparing music and art. Now we are comparing the sculpture side and the poetry. So the maestro is asking about what kind of sculpture you're imagining to fit with your music, and also what kind of riff can be used to write a verse in the Bible, for example.
What kind of riff?
Riff, a sound, a guitar sound, and
well, I mean, I always kind of compare myself because in my mind, I'm always, whenever, especially when I'm writing and playing, it's very grandiose, you know.
Okay.
And but I always think of I'm going to mix a poem and a statue. I think of that poem by Piercy called Ozymandias, you know, where it's this big monolith, you know, and they're walking through the sand, and this monolith, there's this sneering god king out in the desert, and he's saying, tremble at you know how powerful I am, you know, but it's broken and cracked and dissolving into the sand, and the dissolving sneer of this ginormous god king is, you know, all, you know, so no matter, you know, I feel like my history is being erased as fast as I make it, you know, and I don't want to be that, you know, guy that sounds like, you know, look at me, hooray for me, this is my history, because it sounds very vainglorious, you know.
Ok, quindi non gli piace la, diciamo, l'autoglorificazione. So Asmodeus is the statue, right?
I don't want to be forgotten, but I don't want to sacrifice who I am just to say, hey, you know, I'm first, you know.
Okay.
But I want my history, but it's a double-edged sword, you know. And also, you know, I hope I can raise, you know, the bar a little bit. And right now, I think I'm thought of more fundamentally than artistically, and I want to raise the bar. You know, I want to be.
So the statue is called Asmodeus, it's right? I understood correctly, because I had some audio problems by my side.
It's what?
The name of the statue.
Ozymandias, yeah.
Asmodeus, ok.
It's from a poem from Piercy, yeah.
Ah, ok. Quindi la statua è quella del dio che praticamente sprofonda nella sabbia. Asmodeus mi pare. E praticamente dice che lui non vuole essere dimenticato. E dice che non ci vuole niente.
Non sarà mai dimenticato, infatti.
E quindi questa è la situazione. Mentre, what about the riffing? How can a riff can write a poem or, as the Maestro said, a verse of the Bible? Can you, for example, describe which song can I can imagine the Apocalypse part of the Bible?
Oh yeah,
example.
well, you know, I tend to stay in Revelations, you know.
Okay, Revelation. Okay.
So, which is the last book, you know, John the Apostle.
Yeah.
He wrote it from a vision, you know. He had a vision sent from God about the end of the world, the final battle between good and evil. Satan's army, greater than the number of grains in the sand.
Yeah, also the scene with the 4 nights of the apocalypse, right?
Yeah.
Ok, quindi l'Apocalisse praticamente.
Jesus comes back not as a lion, or not as a lamb, but as a lion on a red horse of death with a sword.
Yeah.
And the rivers, the streets turn into rivers of blood, but in like a flash, everybody ascends to heaven, you know? And so I love that concept of good versus evil, that clash, which we all have inside of us.
Yeah, basically we have the dark side and the light side combining together. Quindi abbiamo tutti quanti
and the ascent of something higher. Yeah. To want something more, not only of the world, because the world is fleeting, as I said. The world will pass you by. But fundamentally, as people, to want something more of ourselves, you know?
Yeah, that's our in our spirit, in our soul, basically.
Yeah.
Ok, quindi lui Maestro lì come immagine proprio del riff di chitarra che descrive un pezzo della Bibbia, dei 4 cavalli dell'Apocalisse, lo scontro finale tra Dio tra il paradiso e l'inferno, e che poi c'è quella grandissima esplosione, tutti quanti si trovano, cioè praticamente proprio l'ultimo libro della Bibbia. Quindi...
I don't think it's as abstract as you think it is, because artists always want more of themselves.
No, but we don't think that it's not abstract, in my opinion. It's I'm here talking and translating, and I figured out all the battle and the music in the background and all this kind of stuff going at the same time. Qui sto immaginando proprio la scena che lui ha descritto, no? So I'm imagining everything. It's not so abstract.
Artists are incredibly humble in their own way. They always think, like, I'm not good enough, I need to be better. But a lot of that, with some artists, hopefully not me, will come out and be seen as arrogance, and I think that's like a shield, because when you put yourself out there, you are afraid that people will go, that sucks, and people do say that sucks no matter what you do. There's always some kid that doesn't understand what you're doing, who doesn't want to understand what you're doing, who likes his local band or the band that he's heard better, therefore everything else sucks, and I think that's limiting. I don't care what he's doing. Me as a person, I'm trying to just be the best that I can be,
Quindi lui sta parlando della sensibilità dell'artista che si mette a nudo le proprie sensazioni per poi essere anche esposto a critiche e a, diciamo, delle situazioni spiacevoli, però alla fine dice, per quanto l'artista tende a perfezionarsi, può essere visto come un arrogante, una persona che comunque ha una percezione diversa della realtà, che si mette a nudo e di solito viene anche abissato dai commenti negativi, però dice lui è proprio l'artista in questi casi che deve praticamente esporre il suo pensiero per poter argomentare, perché chi fa arte ha una sensibilità diversa e che non verrà capita, però comunque è il mettersi in gioco che a lui piace. In questo caso.
I'm not competing with other bands. I'm competing with myself,
Exactly, I was saying this in Italia. Lui non va contro altre band, ma va contro se stesso, cioè lui si autoperfeziona praticamente.
Invece deve scegliere solamente una track e basta.
Quindi ultima domanda, maestro.
No, ma proprio in tutta la discografia, per descrivere la scultura, basta.
Ok, if you can
solo
pick
una track.
One song of your discography that describes that statue that you said before, the Asmodeus statue. There is one song that can describe this sensation of the god in the sand and the erasing of the history and stuff we talked about before.
Again, it's hard with one song because it is a conglomerate.
Yeah, I know. Lo so che è difficile con una sola canzone. I know that it's hard with one
track.
Song. But since there is a lot of choice, we want to stick with one just to say the most straightforward answer we can have from you. Detto la domanda più diretta possibile, insomma, senza pensarci.
I'm thinking of when you segregate them as one song, especially on Revelations of Oblivion. It'd be very bleak and satanic, But I like if you look at the words, even though I didn't write these words, it's one of the few songs I didn't write the lyrics on. If you look at the word, the word maybe. Oh, actually, I did write this one. Sorry, I was going to say The Exorcist is a good one because it's basically a prayer saying "Save me," But then the word is also very it's about if religion and Christianity ceased to exist, what would the world look like, and basically it's a criticism, a social criticism and saying we have to do better.
Quindi la critica sociale, lui sceglierebbe tra tante cose The Word. La canzone The Word.
It's a social criticism like many of my songs. Even though I like people a lot, I'm very existential. And just saying, hey, let's be better.
È una canzone critica sul come la società sarebbe affetta senza le religioni. So it's a song that is based in a world without religion. That's right. The meaning
so is Graven, though. It's a portrayal of if Christianity ceased to exist as a whole, would the world be would the world be a better place or would it be a much worse place?
Ok. Quindi il mondo come può essere quando la cristianità finisce, meglio o peggio, e lei parla nella canzone, quindi The Word dell'album. Ovviamente parliamo della release Revelations of Oblivion, traccia numero 10. 10th track of the album, The World.
Yeah, okay. And I got to say that I believe that a world without Christianity, regardless of anybody's spiritual inclinations, would be a fundamentally flawed place. I don't believe in burning books. You know?
Quindi lui non crede nell'incendiare libri, dice che comunque il mondo senza cristianesimo, nonostante la nostra visione spirituale, per quello che ha dato culturalmente, sarà un mondo, dice, flooded, quindi sarà un mondo perso.
And I just want to say one more thing that I think is important before. I think we live in a time where social media has been privatized, of course. Big Brother is watching. Everything you say and do is monitored. And you can't say this, you can't say that. Our rights, our free speech, are fundamentally being burned and decimated wholesale. It's a slaughter. It's a fucking travesty. Like, it is so confined to the business interests of social media. And I think that there's an overlying structure of our government said, we can control the people by telling them what they can and can't fucking say. And we'll give them no books, but we'll give them everything at the tip of their fingers. So they don't have their own brains. They just fucking Google it, you know? And we'll essentially burn any book that is even slightly racy. And we'll just that's the best way to control them, like cattle, where they just pay their fucking taxes and have a blind stupidity to whatever script, right or left, that we write, you know?
Basically the divide and conquer stuff.
Yes, you know? And I had a friend who actually was in the CIA. He said the CIA spends millions on think tanks on how to divide and conquer through seemingly innocuous social media posts, creating the script of left versus right versus middle, you know, and they say, you guys will argue while we do whatever the fuck we want as the upper social economic strata.
Lui parla della questione di social media, di come controllano la società di adesso e di come ci limitano nella nostra libertà di espressione. Ci abbiamo giocato i nostri diritti fondamentali per rimanere appresso a questa cosa, dove dice che anche un amico che sta nella CIA, un amico suo, dice che la tecnica del divide et impera, del dividi e conquista, è molto usata, e quindi praticamente noi stiamo barattando la nostra vita per questa situazione di cancellazione dei nostri diritti. Lui parla proprio di Grande Fratello, quello di Orwell, Big Brother, e quindi praticamente there is a question. We are living here in Italy in a not so good situation of this divide and conquer stuff. Also
manufactured culture wars. Yeah.
Esatto. Fanno proprio la costruzione di guerre tra le culture. So even if we have the war and stuff, we have the pandemic, the discrimination. That's not. It's something that, for example, Alan work in the hospital and stuff. He knows a lot of stuff that is going on. But the freedom. We talk about freedom. Abbiamo parlato di libertà. People have to bring freedom back, because we are stuck on this. And we not listen anymore. We are not reading anymore, and we are not connecting with people anymore. So I think that is also the music. The mission of the music is to connect people. Quindi noi non facciamo più, non ci connettiamo più, non sentiamo più, ma è la musica che comunque ci unisce e ci fa andare avanti in questo senso.
And back to Revelations, what I really love about Europe is that you'll have several countries that are like. Essentially, European countries are like the states in America. They're small, you know. A lot of our states are bigger than your country, but you keep your culture, you keep your values.
So you mean the identity of
the identity is completely separate in a very short kilometers. You know, you have Germany being Germany, you have Italy being Italy, but each time I come over to Europe,
also in Italy we have South. And the region in the south, the center of Italy, quindi
exactly. There's very, very unique and glorious cultures that take pride in their history, and they remember their history. But I will tell you, every time I come to Europe, and I don't even know how many times I've been, I see a little bit more of America bleeding into it in that Western culture, and it's like, it's sad. You know what I mean? Because I want Europe to be Europe. And I want America to be America.
Lui dice che praticamente la cultura americana sta influenzando un sacco la cultura europea che prima manteneva la propria identità. E lui dice
we
che
don't
lui
have
vorrebbe
13th
mantenere...
century popes. We don't have that beautiful culture. We're only less than 300 years old. We're making our own mistakes, and we're making them big. And we're based on a society that's already crumbled, you know, like Ozymandias. And while we might seem like this towering monolith, right now we're very oppressed, and they're trying to keep us, you know, down. But at the same time, yeah, it's crazy. And back to Revelations, where they say, you know, there'll be the mark of the beast, or a microchip in your left hand or wrist. What's in your hand, your phone, a microchip, you know? And it also says there'll be one culture under Satan, right? One monetary, you know, world trade kind of a currency. And it's so biblical, and the mistakes are so there and so preordained.
Quindi c'è un confronto tra la caduta della Bibbia con la caduta dei nostri tempi, dove lui parla, Jeff, del controllo attraverso comunque l'opinione pubblica. Dice che il fatto che l'America sta lacerando la cultura europea, l'ha detto lui, e praticamente dice che lui viene in Europa e praticamente vuole vedere l'Europa, che ci sono vari piccoli staterelli che hanno la loro identità, in America non ce l'hanno, e lui vorrebbe mantenere questa cosa. Lui nelle sue canzoni, soprattutto in Revelation, ha detto tanto di questa critica sociale, lui la sta argomentando adesso. Jeff, sorry if I have to interrupt you, but I have to do not miss the point because we are talking about a lot of interesting stuff. So for us it's a pleasure to have you here again.
For this great interview, it is an immense honor, Possessed. Thank you, Jeff. Veramente, thank you very much, Jeff.
E facciamo l'ultima domanda?
Ok, allora, l'ultima domanda.
La dici in italiano? So last question for you, Jeff, before ending the interview.
Ok. Prendiamo un calice,
okay.
Lo immergiamo all'interno di una bevanda alcolica per far sì che i Possessed riescono a stendere ogni fan grazie a un alcol particolare. Quale sarebbe?
So since our podcast, our YouTube channel is called The Black Calice, the Calice is seen in a ritualistic way, but also like in a funny way, because we are here talking and express our opinions freely. And the Maestro is asking you about the perfect drink, alcoholic drink, if you prefer, that can fit your music, your style, your way of life. If you can suggest us a beverage, a drink that is perfect for you and for your fans, that is said to kind of that this drink have to have the elements of your art inside. What do you think you can be the drink that the Maestro is talking about? Most of people, of course, answer with beer, but I think that is not the correct answer.
The first thing that came to my mind was water. Yeah,
l'acqua.
Yeah, a very it makes you free. It's spiritually correct, and and it's healthy. It's a good self-observation to drink lots of water and to be you know, free. But then there's also you know, like I'm not going to say that, you know, I know it wants to be alcohol, but I don't even drink that much anymore. I drink on tour, you know, but I mean, it's life, man. Death metal's life, man. And I want it to be, you know, and it is to me something very spiritual, very eclectic, but at the same time, it's a very unique culture, you know. And I think it's okay. I think that people can do more. I think that we can do more than one thing. We can be more than one thing. We can keep our social identity, but relate with the world in a meaningful and, you know, great, peaceful way, you know. So, and not to be too like pie in the sky or naive sounding, because I don't think I think it's a social narrative about the chaotic and the chaos of the world. I think it started as a fuck you fuck the world thing, and now more and more it's a come together thing, and to live life a very hard, and if you try to live your life easy, it's going to be hard. If you try to live your life hard, it's going to be easy type way.
Yeah. Quindi la bevanda per Jeff dice che l'acqua, perché lui non beve tanto, beve solo entrando in tour, dice che l'acqua è la cosa che più ne bevi più stai meglio praticamente, però dice che non bisogna essere relegati a una sola sottocultura, relegati a una sola cosa, bisogna essere unici nel nostro, diciamo, nel nostro essere. E quindi dice, puoi utilizzare qualsiasi cosa per descrivere me, per descrivere la mia arte, per descrivere quello che faccio. Deve essere una cosa che fai tu e che interpreti tu e incanali tu. Io questo così ho capito quello che ha detto. Quindi puoi essere quello che vuoi, basta che lo sei nella tua integrità, nella tua libertà.
Perfetto. Chiudiamo
with this really cool answer, we can end this stream tonight. 1 hour and 43 minutes of interview. It's really crazy.
Thank you very much.
I hope Jeff, you spend with us a really good time here in our podcast. We really enjoyed the answer and also all the topics that we touched tonight, and we hope that we can get in touch with you more, so in the future we can have another episode and basically talk about, I don't know, the next Possessed album, but also to go in depth about the art and the artistic side. Because,
anytime,
as you said, the social media are strict, and you cannot express yourself 100%. But this channel was born with the intention to make people 100% comfortable and free.
Yes,
even if we are on social media too, but we try to give the best part of the social media.
Yes.
La cosa migliore dei social vogliamo fare con le puntate.
Splendid the interview.
Splendid. Grazie. Arrivederci.
Grazie Jeff. Thank you Jeff again. Thanks to all the people. You can rewatch this episode in a full length on YouTube. And again, Jeff, thank you again, and we hope to catch you on tour in Italy as soon as possible. And for people that are interested, of course, there is a Facebook page and the artist page, Jeff Possessed and stuff, you name it. But the last thing that I want to say, Jeff, can we have some spoilers about what's new in the Possessed world? Qualche anticipazione sui Possessed nel futuro?
Well,
there is something going on, or
yeah, definitely. We have the Mexican Metal Fest coming up with we're direct support for Wasp and bands like Death to Us All and Mayhem and Satiricon and just a ton of bands. Great
Quindi
bands.
Suoneranno in Mexico, right? And what about Europe? You have plans for Europe?
Well, the nature of the beast right now is that I had a pretty massive surgery almost a year ago.
Okay.
In May, it will be a year, and then I can get back up and around. The Mexico trip is to see whether I tour and travel well. If I come out relatively unscathed, because you always get a little fucked up from touring. If I can come back and heal and keep touring, then I'm going to start touring again. And we have tentative possible plans for 2023.
Okay.
So I may see you in 2023.
I hope that you can have the best thing possible about this experience. Just to be restored, restart touring, but also for about yourself, because I saw your video some months ago.
Yeah, I'm doing really well though. I'm doing really
quindi
well.
si sta sentendo meglio, però non stanno facendo tanti programmi tour perché vogliono vedere dopo questo anno in Messico come va, per poi capire se può fare più tour. Quindi è un anno che ha fatto l'operazione. Good to know about this. Of course,
Forever Possessed.
And of course, we're writing the new album.
Stanno scrivendo il nuovo album.
We're going to record something around August.
Okay.
And at least a precursor to the album. So maybe you'll see some teasers come out on Nuclear Blast. Hopefully, I don't know what their schedule is because they have a lot of bands. But Possess should be done around August with at least 4 or 5 songs. And we'll put that out as a teaser and finish the album as fast as possible.
Okay, quindi stanno registrando qualcosa per agosto. Wow, it's a really cool spoiler that you give to us. We look forward about the new stuff coming on. of course, Jeff, let's get in touch. Thank you again.
Thank
and,
you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to all the people here in Italy and abroad that are following us. Il Calice Nero will never stop, even if in Italy it's 2 a.m., but nobody can stop us. And yeah, thanks again and good night to everyone.
Good night.
Bye, buonanotte ragazzi, alla prossima.
A domani.
Calice
A domani
Nero,
con
Jeff Becerra dei Possessed.
non si
A
ferma
domani con un
mai.
episodio. Maestro, prego.
Niente, a domani con i Suicide Almades, dalle 21 alle 22 gruppo francese, poi il 24 c'è Wealth Yama Tattoo, un'altra bella chicca, il tatuatore, con tanti aneddoti, e poi il grande spettacolo non si ferma mai, codice donale 000, la morte vi renderà liberi.
Buonanotte, good night to everyone.
Thank you.
Au revoir.